guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 60. Models Memories is a show about nothing and it is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about my painting, modeling, and wargaming experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 YouTube videos a week and you stream every single night. How? Could you have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This was a pretty fun week. I actually did get a tiny bit of personal hobbying done. I put together a whole squad of B1 battle droids for the game Star Wars Legion. And I have to say, like, I'm a little bit of a Star Wars fan, a little bit. I absolutely adore the B1 battle droids. It must be my favorite robot from all of science fiction. I think that the B1 might be the greatest robot of all time. And Star Wars has a lot of like the bestest or the greatest, or at least especially the most iconic. I don't think there's very many people in the world you couldn't show a Stormtrooper helmet to, and then they wouldn't be like, Star Wars. Like, it's everything about Star Wars is super, super iconic, and I think that they made the most iconic robot. It's so different than other robots. It's got this weird, long, it's not really bird-like. I don't know what that face is. I guess it's like a horse. It's kind of got like a horse face, and that beigey tan color. Like robots are usually like silver, sometimes they're red, but it was such a brilliant move to make them tan. I love the B1 battle droids. It's one of my absolute favorite things, and these models were really fun to put together. You get 9 of them in a box, which is not bad, and they are styrene instead of PVC like a lot of the other Star Wars Legion models are. I mean, they really couldn't be PVC because PVC can't really mold with such tiny, tiny fiddly details. And so these guys worked out great in polystyrene. I didn't really have to scrape too many mold lines because a lot of the mold lines are actually on little creases and crevices in their armor. So I just left them alone, and I'm very excited to get to paint these guys. Now that I have 9 of them, I'm like, well, you know, I kind of want maybe 4 more boxes, 5 more boxes, because I want a giant horde of B1 battle droids marching up the table. I love them so much. And the missile launcher guy. I love the missile launcher guy. I have such fond memories of the missile launcher from Star Wars Battlefront 2 back in 2005? That game was so much fun. And what was great about the missile launchers, they weren't good. You never really took the missile launcher. The only reason you'd use the missile launcher in Battlefront was if you were kind of taking on an anti-vehicle role, but it was just so much fun to fire the missile, and it moved so slow that your target could almost always get out of the way. But when they didn't, and it landed and they just went spinning. One of my favorite things in Star Wars is kind of the universe and the battle droids. And actually, one of my favorite sleep strategies, if I'm ever having any trouble falling asleep, is I break out my Star Wars source books. Star Wars Essential Guide to Droids. And when was this sucker published? Gotta be 1999. And this one is probably from the early 2000s. I have every single Essential Guide to Star Wars book. They did 2 series. They did them back in the 90s, and then they did some in like the mid 2010s, and I have both sets. And you know, I have to give it to the 90s. I think that these are better written books, but there's just so many more things in the new ones because the prequels had come out. And so the prequels just dumped so many awesome designs on us. But I love these books, and boy, I have read the pages on B1s a lot. I love the Star Wars Essential Guide books. And now I have B1s. And what's great about them being in styrene plastic is that these are very posable. You can pose the legs. They're kind of peg and slot, which is good because every single one has a slightly unique walking pose. And so you kind of want that just to work out, but you could put any of the arms, any of the heads on. And so then even though I'm gonna buy a whole bunch of these things, they're all gonna look just a little bit unique. The special laser gun. The only thing missing, I would love to see it, is there's this very weird looking sniper rifle that the CIS uses in the Star Wars Battlefront games. I think they actually have it again in the new Battlefront game, but it's just a weird looking sniper rifle, and I really like it. But yeah, B1s. I love these B1s. I'm gonna have to rewatch some of Srastro's Star Wars Legion painting tutorials to get some ideas of how to paint these suckers. Although he used a lot of Games Workshop contrast paints, what I might do is I might try to recreate them with Army Painter speed paints, because I really like Army Painter speed paints. I think they're super cool. And the reactivation, which is super duper overblown. The reactivation, the paint doesn't just come off. A little bit of it comes off, but I've done some experimentation, and if you paint it on and then the second after it's dry, you go back in with a damp brush, you can do some really interesting things. If you lay it on really thick, you can kind of pull off chunks of paint. If you lay it on really, really thin, you can kind of do your highlights by just slowly pulling off little bits of paint to add in the highlights, edge highlights. It's a really, really interesting paint. And I feel like if I can really get good with speed paint, I can do some really, really cool paint jobs really fast. And speaking of getting to work on some really, really interesting models, I worked on this model in one feverish 14-hour-long painting session. And this is our miniature, the Squid Mage, sculpted for us by Liqerise, who is a wonderful artist, and she's responsible for the intro, our animated intro. But this model is really, really cool. It was quite something to paint. This was one of those times where I sat down and I'm like, this is gonna be a real challenge, but I was kind of up for it, because one thing I really struggle with in painting is blending. I'm not very good at it. I don't have a lot of patience. And this model is blending the model. But I decided, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna muscle through. I'm gonna learn what I need to learn. And this model was really, really fun. It's always great when you sit down and then the model turns out like this. I really love this model. It's one of my favorites I've painted, I think. And I can definitely take what I've learned on this model and then apply it to the rest of my stuff. And I can blend. I can blend. They're maybe not the smoothest, butteriest, most perfect blends out there, but I can get a transition going. I can take regular old acrylics and thin them down and get something. But these models are great, and they're gonna be available to our patrons for the month of May. And if you don't want STLs, you can also get them physically printed by us. Link in the description below. Good old Squid Mage. It's very Malifaux. I feel like these would slot in perfectly with some Malifaux henchmen. Especially since I feel like there are a few examples of Malifaux models where they have one model representing the normal and then one model representing the activated form. And so that is pretty cool. Because yeah, those tentacles are a very fun, magical effect. I also played a lot with light and shadow. I tried to use a lot of shadow just so that I didn't have to paint quite so much, and it's really kind of fun. I almost feel like the next thing I need to do is tackle a huge project based on non-metallic metal, because it's really kind of fun to have big prominent points of light, because it's kind of trippy. It's like the lighting is stuck to the model, and even if I change it, like the light is still coming from the top no matter which way I'm looking at it. It's kind of fun. I like this model a lot. And speaking of models, my favorite game right now is Games Workshop Kill Team, and I finally got a chance to really sit down and go over the new Kill Team release. Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team Moroch. A new Kill Team box set is coming, taking us to a new war zone and introducing more special operatives and kill zone rules. Get ready to go behind enemy lines in Moroch. I want to say Morocco, but it's not, it's Moroch. And first off, let's get the really important stuff out of the way first. Don't worry everybody, because the battle mat that this comes with is tan sand. Yes, it looks like this is just how things are. Every single Kill Team board we're gonna get is gonna be tan sand. And what's even more hilarious is they're all different shades of tan sand. So it would almost be something if you could kind of lay them all next to each other and then build like a proper full, like big 40K board. Kind of like how some of the old McDonald's like toys would all fit together if you got more Happy Meals. I remember there was a thing with Spy Kids where if you got all the Spy Kids gadgets, you could put them together into one mega gadget. And so, but you can't do that with Games Workshop. You have to have different tan sand boards. This one is ever so slightly unique because they did Photoshop in some landing pads, so it's at least something. But there's so many other colors. Can't you give us green sand or blue sand or orange sand? Why does Games Workshop just love tan sand? 50 shades of tan sand. It's... Whew. But the terrain is very nice. I think this terrain would be a really good start to a good kill team board because it's got several big pieces, and I really like big pieces in kill team with the caveat that you need to have big pieces and lots of little pieces to kind of fill in. Because what's nice about big pieces is you get some vantage point, you can hide models behind them, you can go around them. Big pieces are nice to have in kill team. But you need lots of little pieces, little scatter terrain and things to hide behind, little pieces of cover. So if you have this terrain and maybe one of the other terrains, you're golden. But yeah, it could have used some barrels. I mean, it seems like the way they do this is you get your 2 teams, and then every single other available inch in these boxes is devoted to terrain. And as soon as they can't put more sprues in the box, they're like, that's it. No antenna for your crane, that we do not have the room. But yeah, I like the terrain. I think it's very, very nice. I have the Sector Fronteras terrain, which some of the Sector Fronteras terrain is in this, and so I'll probably get this. And so I'll paint this stuff up to match the other Sector Fronteras, and then we can maybe have a huge Sector Fronteras board. So I like it. I like the terrain. It's neat. Now on to the teams. We have the Astra Militarum behind to the Worship of Chaos. This box contains 2 teams of special operatives, starting with the brand new Blooded Kill team. These Militarum Traitoris have left the Astra Militarum behind to worship the Chaos Gods. So yeah, we have Traitor Guard, which is great. People bring up Traitor Guard seemingly way more often than I feel like is necessary. And I get it, Traitor Guard are cool, and they used to have really nice models from Forge World. You could say that about most things. Forge World cycles models out fairly quickly, but these models, I love all of them. I think the plebs are cool, and the piece de resistance is definitely the evil commissar, who I love that he doesn't have a chaos tattoo. He has a chaos scar tattoo on his face, which is a lot of fun. Oh, and that big old power fist that looks exactly like Hellboy. It is great. And the Hellbrute, or no, that's not a Hellbrute, that is a Ogryn, a chaotic Ogryn with a gigantic crab claw. Sometimes, like, models can be nice. Like, I'd say the Commissar is a nice model, but I would say that the Ogryn is like an artistically nice model. The framing is beautiful. There's a round shape to his body, and then there's a round shape to this Chaos Star kind of like pirate wheel hanging off of his back, or it might be stuck inside of his torso, but it just does such a nice job of framing his head. It's just a really nice framing device, and it makes for a really, really like artistically pleasing miniature. And then I love that his club is a power weapon, because power weapons famously have this little antenna. It's a little wire that runs to it, and that turns, a sword into a power sword, or a power maul, or a maul into a power maul. But this guy's weapon is a chunk of rebar with like daggers stuck to it. And so I love that they took whatever this improvised weapon was and then turned it into a proper power weapon for him. They didn't find him a nice power weapon. They just like cobbled something together. I love that model. I can't wait to see how it plays in game. One of my favorite factions in Kill Team, the Kroot. The Kroot are wonderful because you got your Kroot warriors, and then you've got your Kroot hounds, and then you've got your big old Krootox. And it's really fun having that giant Krootox wrecking ball running around. And so I wonder if this is gonna be something very similar, where you've got all of your plebs who are pretty lame on their own, and then you've got the giant bully walking up the battlefield. I cannot wait to get my hands on this team. I think it'll be great. And this will be a great opportunity if you're not a fan of the Chaos Cultists, or you just want a more like militaristic cultist for your Chaos Space Marine army. These guys are gonna be great proxies. They look great. And it'll be really interesting to get them in box, because, Games Workshop seems to be trying to do a thing where they make things that are not strictly for Kill Team. And so it'll be interesting to see what kind of options are available in the box. Because very much like the Veteran Guardsman, the Krieg have all of their options for Kill Team, but then you can also build them all as normal las gun guardsmen if you wanted to bring them in your 40k armies. So I wonder if these guys are going to have all the options available for kill team, but then they're going to have normal las guns or maybe auto pistols and close combat weapons, so they can be normal old chaos cultists. But I think they look great. They do look like guardsmen who have kind of ramshackled more gear together. But yeah, the blooded kill team, the Militarum Traitoris A+. And now on to the Space Marines. Oh, the Space Marines. I mean, I gotta say, I suppose Phobos Strike Team, not the worst idea for kill team. They're definitely the most tactical of the Space Marines, and they feel very kill team. You know, they're very sneaky, they're very stealthy. The choice of Space Marine is not a bad one, but boy, oh boy, is it a weird decision to make them completely normal, seemingly completely normal. I mean, you know, if you are not a Space Marine player who was already bought incursors or infiltrators, you probably wouldn't notice the difference between these guys and the normal Space Marine kits. There's not a lot of super interesting new stuff because a lot of it is pouches, and it's already a kit that comes with a lot of pouches. So it'll be interesting once we actually get the rules to see what kind of specialists they've created, but I can't say I'm particularly excited. I mean, here's all they would have needed to do to make this a really cool, bespoke Space Marine kill team. Because they made a whole new sprue, and you can put anything on that sprue. Kill team, you know, you could do anything in kill team. Put a couple special weapons on there. It'd be so easy, just throw in a couple of special weapons. Maybe a Plasma Annihilator, if you want to keep everything Primaris. A Plasma Annihilator would have been super cool. A Volkite pistol. You know, if they really wanted to get a little saucy, maybe a missile launcher would have been a great choice. It's very tactical because you can choose between the frag grenade and the crack grenade. If you just included those 3 weapons, you made 3 special weapon operatives, I think that this would have been a perfectly nice, cool, interesting Space Marine bespoke team. But as it is, I mean, you know, maybe they'll do something really interesting with the rules, but I see 10 guys who are all holding the same bolt gun and the same combat knife. Not that interesting. One thing I'm really looking forward to with the rules is if they're going to have the Space Marine shoot twice ability, because it is the thing of Space Marines, and I tend to think it is a little bit boring because you move, shoot, shoot, move, shoot, shoot, move, shoot, shoot. It's very powerful, but it's so powerful that you'll almost never do anything else. And it makes Space Marines very predictable, and I feel like it makes them a little less interesting to play. I know I've talked to some kill team friends of mine, and we've come up with what the Space Marines should have is maybe Space Marines can have a 4th activation, but they have to pick between like a list of 3 Space Marine activations. And so maybe one of their activations can be better shooting or being stronger, like a better defensive stat. And so every turn they get to do a 4th special action, but those actions are limited in what they can do. Like they're not gonna be able to do an extra move or an extra shoot, but they're gonna be able to do some super cool Space Marine stuff. Because Space Marines are a cut above. It should be a big deal fighting a Space Marine. But move, shoot, shoot doesn't make them feel like a big deal. It's just kind of boring. So maybe when we get to the rules, it's gonna be like, okay, the models aren't the most interesting thing in the world, but the rules make them the most interesting thing in the world. I have a hunch that won't be the case, but it would be something really neat. We've seen rules for Space Marines in the Heretic Astartes, which we got in the last box, and they were pretty good, but they had a lot of uniquenesses going on. They had a Psyker model, they had like a possessed model, they had special weapons available in the chain gun and the plasma pistol and the plasma gun. Like there was variety. Whereas here, I mean, Space Marine bolt gun, Space Marine bolt gun, Space Marine bolt gun, Space Marine bolt gun. Not a lot of variety, so we'll see what they do with the rules. But overall, I like the terrain, impressed with the Militarum Traitoris models. The Space Marines are kind of whatever. I mean, I think they could have made any Space Marine cool if they picked Intercessors or Incursors, but there's nothing wrong with Infiltrators. I think they just, I don't know, I'm not seeing a lot of excitement in the loadout. But I do appreciate that they have fought the urge to introduce lots and lots of elites. I feel like every single day I get asked multiple times, like, does Kill Team have Tau Crisis suits? Does Kill Team have Terminators? Does Kill Team have Incubi? Because last edition, you could take anything and it kind of became a mess. I do appreciate that they've limited themselves with Kill Team 2020, Kill Team 2020, Kill Team 2020. It's, I like it. But still, I am looking forward to Kill Team Moroch. Oh, it should be Kill Team Morocco. It's not, it's Moroch. But speaking of Warhammer things I really liked this week, I listened to Day of Ascension by Adrian Tchaikovsky, and it might be my new favorite Black Library novel. I really liked it. I was excited when I saw, it's a very recent book, and I was very excited when I saw there was going to be a Gene Stealer cult novel, because the Gene Stealer cults are a weird faction where they're kind of regular folks. They have some really interesting stuff like the Aberrants and the Gene Stealers, but they're regular old folks. And so I was really interested to see what they would do with a book, especially a book from the perspective of the Gene Stealers, because how do you do the perspective of the Gene Stealers? Gene Stealers are bad. Like, it is a bad thing. It's like a plague. Like a Gene Stealer lands on a planet and then starts injecting people with a parasite that makes them mind controlled so that they have to do whatever the Patriarch wants them to do. But Day of Ascension was really, really good. I think the brilliant thing that it does is it kind of does away with a lot of the 40K structure. It's kind of a medieval story where you've got the peasants versus the king. And the king is the Adeptus Mechanicus, and the peasants are they're pretty much just peasants. They have wheelbarrows and stuff. And it's really, really good because you really feel for these Gene Stealers. I mean, also, this is a Gene Stealer cult where they have lost their Patriarch. And so they don't have that strong psychic connection keeping them all together. It's just a cult. But they take care of each other and they help each other and they're just doing their best. And the mean old Adeptus Mechanicus, they come in and they steal their resources and they take away all of their big, strong, able-bodied men to fight in the Skitarii legions. And it's so sad. And finally, it's the Day of Ascension. The Gene Stealers are going to try to see if they can rise up. It's such a good book. I absolutely love it. I think maybe I'll have to re-listen to The Infinite and the Divine, because The Infinite and the Divine is also a brilliant Black Library novel, but Day of Ascension might displace it. It's a kind of a quick listen. I think it's only like 5 hours. It's a really good book. And I can't say too much without giving anything away, but you feel for the Gene Stealer cult. At the end of this book, you're like, hell yeah! Gene Stealer cult all the way. Down with the Imperium of Man, down with the Skitarii. It's the Gene Stealer cult should be the ones who own the galaxy. It's such a brilliant book. It's emotional. I think one of the really important things that this book does is it has characters care about each other, which is a surprisingly rare thing in these 40K books. But when characters care about each other, you start to care about them and their relationships with each other, and you get scared when they're gonna get hurt or they're gonna die or something's going wrong. And so you just start to love these peasants and their plight and how miserable they are and how bad they've got it, and you hate the evil king, the fat Skitarii on their throne who are just doing nasty stuff and being evil royalty. It's so good. The AdMech are used a lot in these books as like the foil for something else. Another really good book is Brutal Cunnin, where you've got the orcs who are besieging an Adeptus Mechanicus planet. And the Adeptus Mechanicus are failing to get rid of these orc invaders because they're complete logic. And so they are combating the orcs' craziness with logic, and the orcs' craziness just messes up all of their plans. You know, they'll set up these beautiful battles and these beautiful ideas, and oh, if the orcs bank left, we're gonna be ready to go with the Rough Riders. Nope, the orcs just, I don't know, lob giant balls of metal with orcs inside of them. And what's great is that there's one little Skitari who has a little bit of humanity left, and she's like, "What are you idiots doing?" And they're like, "We have calculated our odds perfectly, and we will win this battle. We have 100% certainty." And she's like, "But what if?" And they're like, "No, what if? We've mathed this. We will defeat these orcs." And she's like, "You're not gonna defeat these orcs." Brutal Conan is a really, really fun book. And in that book, you actually want the Adeptus Mechanicus to succeed. Although you kind of want the orcs to succeed a little bit more. But in Day of Ascension, I might need to listen to it again. I really, really liked Day of Ascension. I think this is the first Black Library novel that this author has written. I hope he gets to write a lot more because I am in. It was such a good book. Day of Ascension. If you like the Gene Stealer cult, or if you just like really good books, I think it's well worth it. I think it's a good book on top of being a Black Library book. Like there's some good Black Library books that I would never recommend to anyone because they wouldn't like them. But I think Day of Ascension is just a good book. I think people could like Day of Ascension, the book. But that is what I worked on this week. I had a lot of fun painting this model, which is available on our Patreon. And if this model is not your thing, we also have tons and tons of super cool terrain STLs on our Patreon, and they're hosted on Comics, Games, and Things. In addition to that, we have some behind the scenes weekly hobby hangouts, voting on what models I paint live here on YouTube, and one extra episode of EOB a week. But that is what I worked on this week, so thanks for watching.